for the States, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 13th post-campaign press briefing, 5th May 2026. Allow me to invite our chairperson for today's session, the Honorable Minister of Industry and Commerce, Mr. Ziyambi, to present today's cabinet highlights. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Chief Secretary. Good afternoon, members of the media. With us this afternoon is the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, Professor Mube, Minister of Women Affairs, Community, Small to Medium Enterprise Development, Honorable Mtsongo, and Minister of Environment, Climate and Wildlife, Honorable Dr. Evelyn Ndlovu. And for the avoidance of doubt, the Minister of Industry and Commerce is here in his capacity and also Acting Minister of Information Broadcasting Services. Today, the 5th of April 2026, His Excellency the President, Dr. E.T. Mnangagwa, chaired the 13th Cabinet meeting, and the following issues, among others, were considered and approved. First was the review of licenses, permits, levies, and fees in the mining sector. Cabinet noted and approved the review of licenses, permits, levies, and fees charged by ministries, departments, and agencies in the mining sector, which was presented by the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, Honorable Professor Mube. The review of licenses, permits, levies, and fees in the sector is in compliance with the Cabinet decision of 29 July 2025, which approved the implementation of a raft of business reforms in 12 sectors of the economy. The review process is aimed at reducing the cost of doing business, increasing competitiveness, enhancing the viability of enterprises, as well as enabling the growth of the Zimbabwean economy. More specifically, Cabinet approved the streamlining of duplicated and overlapping regulatory licenses and permits, removed unnecessary levies and fees, and lowered unjustifiably high levies and fees for the mining sector, as per the following highlights. One is the duplicative and overlapping licenses and permits that are now streamlined under a single regulatory authority. Two, it's over 80% of the mining sector fees that are considered reasonable have been maintained. Three, the fee differentials based on operators' capacity to pay have been introduced, with license fees for artisanal small-scale mines being paid at a fraction of fees paid by large firms. New regulatory fees such as gold jewelry permit and application for registration of approved processing plants for lithium have been introduced. Registration fees to deal with precious stones have been reduced and will be payable every 5 years. The Minister of Mines and Mining Development annual fees for the first, second, and subsequent inspection fees for block of claims has been reduced. The Minister of Mines and Mining Development trading on mining location fee has been scrapped, and the diamond cutting and polishing license fee has been reduced. Rural District Councils' land development levies have now been standardized. Cabinet also considered policy and legislative issues affecting the mining sector, including the ongoing review of the Mines and Minerals Act, the development of the Mineral Development Policy, and the operationalization of the mining cadastral system to ensure that mining licenses are granted, tracked, and managed in a legally binding and accurate manner. Other issues include capacitation of the relevant regulatory bodies to strengthen oversight of the mining sector and the formalization of the small-scale mining operations. Cabinet also noted the report on the 2026 Zimbabwe International Trade Fair as presented by the Minister of Industry and Commerce. The 66th edition of the ZITF was officially opened by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Botswana, Advocate Duma Gideon Boko, on 23 April 2026. The fair was held under the theme, I quote, Connected Economies, Competitive Industries, close quote. The total number of exhibitors increased from 795 in 2025 to 812 in 2026, with 98 being first-time exhibitors. The exhibition further witnessed an increase in private sector participation, which accounted for 61% of exhibitors, complemented by 39% contingent of government entities. Among the major highlights of the event was the Rural Industrialization and Economic Empowerment Indaba, held on 20 April 2026, where strategies to strengthen linkages between large-scale industry and micro, small, and medium enterprises, focusing on agro-processing and mineral beneficiation at local level were discussed. The ZITF 2026 Youth in Business Forum, held on the 21st of April 2026, focused on the topic Youth Financial Inclusion, Closing Gaps in Connected Economies, in order to empower young entrepreneurs with financing and innovation opportunities. The $1 million Youth Economic Empowerment Fund was launched to support youth-led business growth and development. The International Business Conference IBC, held on 22 April 2026, drew more than 600 delegates. The Honourable Vice President Chiwenga reaffirmed government's commitment to the shift away from raw resource exports towards domestic manufacturing and value addition in mining and agriculture. Notably, the private sector called for a freeze on new regulations whose effect is to increase levies and licenses in order to address operational challenges. The Connect Africa Symposium, held on 24 April, brought together over 300 delegates to address the future of continental commerce. In his keynote address, Honourable Vice President Mohadi reiterated the need to optimize trade policies to take full advantage of the African continental free trade areas and to also harmonize standards as a key enabler of trade. The Digital Economy Conference reaffirmed Zimbabwe's strategic commitment to accelerating the digital transformation as a key enabler of economic growth. The conference successfully positioned artificial intelligence as a practical tool for driving innovation, improving public service delivery, and enhancing productivity across sectors such as agriculture, mining, health, and education. The 66th edition of ZITF was a resounding success, reinforcing Zimbabwe's status as a premier destination for investment and trade. Cabinet also noted and approved the Research Amendment Bill, which was presented by the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Honourable Ziyambi Ziyambi, as Chairman of the Cabinet Committee on Legislation. The bill seeks to amend the Research Act by establishing, among others, a Research Authority of Zimbabwe, a research fund, I take this again, a Research Authority of Zimbabwe, a research fund, and the institutionalization of a national research and development funding target of not less than 1% of the country's gross domestic product. The research fund will be utilized to promote innovation, technological adaptation, and adoption, as well as the development of appropriate human resources to enhance research capabilities. Cabinet noted and approved the Environmental Management Bill, which was presented by the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Honourable Ziyambi Ziyambi, as Chairman of the Cabinet Committee on Legislation. The bill seeks to amend the Environmental Management Act by incorporating emerging environmental principles and giving effect to environmental rights that are enshrined in the Constitution. The bill also seeks to empower and strengthen the Environmental Management Agency in order to protect and preserve the environment for the present and future generations. Cabinet noted and approved the hosting of the experts group meeting for African Registrar Generals and Board of the African Civil Registration and Vital Statistics, CRVS, shared asset by Zimbabwe, scheduled from 15 to 20 June 2026, as presented by the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Honorable Kazende Kazende. This follows a request to host the group, which was made by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, as the Secretariat of the African Programme on Accelerated Improvement of Civil Registration and Vital Statistics. The Civil Registry Department is mandated to register births, deaths, national identity, citizenship, marriages, livestock brands, and issue travel documents among its main functions. The department also maintains accurate and reliable civil registration records in Zimbabwe, a function critical for the production of vital statistics. The historic meeting will bring together registrar generals from all the 54 African countries, technical experts, and development partners from across Africa to deliberate on key issues affecting CRVS systems, to share experiences and develop strategies for strengthening civil registration on the continent. Zimbabwe's civil registration system is widely recognized for its strength, innovation, and ongoing modernization, with several African countries drawing lessons from our model under the Second Republic. Cabinet noted and approved the planned National Culture Month activities for May 2026, which was presented by the Minister of National Housing and Social Amenities as the Acting Minister of Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture, Honorable Professor Paul Mavima. The 2026 edition of the National Culture Month celebrations will be held on 21 May at Papa Field Stadium in Bulawayo Province under the theme Cultural Diversity and Creativity, Advancing Vision 2030. The commemorations will celebrate, preserve and showcase the country's diverse heritage while fostering social cohesion, unity and economic development through arts and culture. The national celebrations will feature live performances of selected traditional and contemporary dance, musical groups and comedians, while the month-long activities to be held across all provinces and districts of the country will encompass dance, music, film, theater, literary arts, poetry, traditional cuisines, the First Lady's Nanga, Kota, Ikiba dialogue sessions, as well as pageantry and fashion. I now move on to the reports on priority projects for the first 100-day cycle. Cabinet received reports on progress made in the implementation of priority projects under the first 100-day cycle of 2026, as presented by the Ministers of Women Affairs, Community Small and Medium Enterprise Development, Minister of Youth Empowerment, Development and Vocational Training, Environment, Climate and Wildlife, and Industry and Commerce. Under the Ministry of Women Affairs, Honorable Monica Mtsonga reported progress on 9 projects as follows. On the construction of the Mtapa SMEs workspace in Gweru, Midlands Province, which has reached 88% of completion. On the construction of Masvingo Provincial One-Stop Center at Nemano Growth Point, which has reached 80% of completion. Construction of the Bulawayo Textile Manufacturing Center, which has reached 88% completion. Construction of the Gazaland Workspace in Harare Metropolitan Province, which has reached 95% completion. Zimbabwe's Women Microfinance Bank, Guruwe Dairy Cooperative in Guruwe, National and Central Province, at 60%. Also, 30 micro, small and medium enterprises have been funded using a budget of $1 million US, with 56 members already benefiting from the scheme. 480 entrepreneurship members in Buhera District, Manicaland Province, benefited from startup funding kits for returning migrants. They also reported the construction of the Buffalo Range MSMEs workspace in Chireti in Masvingo Province, which has since been completed with outstanding electrification and water piping works almost complete. Construction of the Gokwe North Rural Development Council SME workspace, which has been completed, providing decent workspace for 40 SMEs. Under the Minister of Youth, Honorable Machakari reported progress on priority projects as follows. The construction of the Emerson Mnangagwa Youth Service in Zimbabwe and Vocational Training Center in Marondera, Mashonaland East Province, which has reached 80% completion. The construction of the Joshua Mkabuko Nyongolo Nkomo Youth Service in Zimbabwe and Vocational Training Center in Kezi, Mapisa, Matebele South Province, which has reached 85% completion. The construction of a grocery shop and LP gas container for youth in Muputsi Shopping Center in Mutare District, Manicaland Province, which has reached 60% completion. And the establishment of the Digital Innovation Hub at Nyamuroro Vocational Training Center in Nambudzia, Gokwe North District, Midlands Province, which has reached 85% completion. The Minister of Environment, Honorable Evelyn Lobo, reported progress as follows. The construction of the Sebakwe Research Ponds in Kwekwe, Midlands Province, meant to conserve indigenous fish species, and the project has reached 70% completion. Construction of Zamazama Community Nursery in Shuruki District, Midlands Province, which has reached 60% completion. Construction of Forestry Commission Murambinda Nursery in Buhera District, Manicaland Province, which has reached 60% completion. Eradication of the poisonous plant, known locally as Mkauzane, which has reached 60% completion in Matebele North Province. Gwenyaya Gali Reclamation Project in Chivi District, Masvingo Province, which has reached 40% completion. The installation of radar solar backup system at all the country's radar sites has reached 30% in terms of completion. And lastly, the construction of Zimpac's staff houses and ablution facilities, which is at various stages of completion in Chinoi, Mashonaland West Province, and in Inyanga, Manicaland Province. The Minister of Industry reported progress as follows. The installation of pine resin processing plant by Como Private Limited in Manicaland Province, which is almost complete. The establishment of Spa Central Butchery in Harare, which has reached 20% completion, while the Spa Central Bakery has reached 75% completion. The installation of a clinker plant at Shuntai Investments in Chekutu, Mashonaland West Province, has reached 70% completion. And lastly, the concept designs for Fairground Shopping Mall in Bulawayo has been completed. All projects are therefore progressing well and on course to meet their 100-day targets. I thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Acting Minister of Information, Broadcasting Services, and the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Honorable Ndlovu, for presenting today's cabinet highlights. We now move to the questions. I have 3 questions. Over to you, colleagues. Yes.
Thank you, Secretary. My name is Paul Ndlovu from WebDC. My first question goes to the Minister of Environment, Dr. despite the existence of EMA, there's been rampant environmental degradation, especially in various mining areas around the country. So with the coming in of this environment management bill, how do you think that it is going? You can give more details in terms of how is the bill going to empower EMA so that it can avoid such degradation? Then the second question goes to the Minister of Finance, Professor Mtuli. If you can provide more details regarding the ease of doing business reforms in the mining sector, and how do you think those are going to be effective to drive growth in the mining sector as well as investment